Sarah. I'm here with Ruby, and I'm going to talk to you about the phases of training a service dog and how I work with Ruby to prepare her for helping her mom with her stages of anxiety. First of all, one of the most important stages of training a service dog doesn't involve training at all. It involves imprinting a young puppy to the world around them. How imprinting and socialization differ is that a young puppy's brain is still in development until they're 12 to 14 weeks old. I like to think of it as a funnel. All the new experiences float in when they're babies and they imprint on their brain as normal. After their brain is developed, new experiences can be startling. It can cause suspicion. And the problem there is that a service dog who needs to be studied should not be startled to everyday sounds and situations. When I bring an imprint puppy in, my focus is on exposing them to everything they'll experience in their lifetime. So if I have a client who sent their puppy from the city, we spend a lot of time in the city. I expose them to stables and trains and buses and towns and whistles and fire alarms and sirens. So when someone calls me to help them train a service dog, the first step is sending them to me as a very young puppy for imprinting. Then, following this stage of training, they go home with a 25-page slideshow and lots of homework to stay abreast of. But again, with a young puppy, we're just focused on establishing good routines and keep the socialization ball rolling. Take them everywhere. Take them to playgrounds. Take them to parks. Let them meet people of all persuasions. Make sure that puppy learns to sit and not jump. How do you do that? It's so easy. It's silly. If they jump, cover your face, and when they sit, bend down to pet them or give them a treat or a toy. Right, Ruby? You're so smart. The service dogs I work with then come back to me at 6 months of age. It's during this time that I put words on them, that we focus on leash training and good manners in crowded situations. Ruby has come back to me. She's 6.5 months now. We are working on leash control. We are also focusing her on the difference in my expectation when she's in her service dog harness, when she's out of it. When she's in her service dog harness, she needs to hover close to my feet. She needs to reference me when there's any distraction. Out of her harness, she can have a little more freedom and free play. So now I'm going to show you the second phase of training with Ruby. The first day or two, we cover simply the basics, reminding her sit and stay, reminding her to lie down on her mat, which I do show them as little imprint puppies, but sometimes they forget. We also worked on basic training, following at my side when she's on a leash, not pulling, coming when she's called. So those are things that are just a review because she did know them. Her mom kept up with them. Are you sleepy? The next phase of training is putting words on her. These words will become her alert when her owner is distressed. The first word I taught her was alert. She is a jumper. She loves to jump. Her mommy missed the memo of not reinforcing the jumping. So we used her enthusiasm for leaping vertically, and I taught it as an alert signal, something she loves to do. The difference between alerting and jumping is that there are no paws on people. No paws on people. So the alert jump you'll see is just her jumping up. Now I'm going to pair that to raised levels of cortisol and adrenaline. In other words, high states of anxiety. The other word I am working her on is nestle. Nestle means to curve in, and this is an indicator for when her person might be sitting or laying down in bed. Her person has night terrors. These states emit a hormonal release that will alert Ruby into action. So nestle is simply to curl up, curl in, and rest on her owner so she feels her safety and she can stroke and hold her until she feels more settled. So the last part of this process is pairing Ruby with her person. And it's more than just attaching indicator cues to raise levels of cortisol. Ruby's person has to develop good boundaries. During her puppyhood, she would often scoop her up and hug her and go to Ruby when she needed comfort. Now she needs to back off and teach Ruby to come to her when she senses her person needs comfort. It's a big dividing line, and it's hard for people to do. And it's one of the things that I do differently in my service dog training is I do involve the person in every stage, and a lot of the training falls on them to train their service dog to their own behavior. One of the hardest things for any pet owner to do is to give their dog space when they need it. So when Ruby is resting, that's not the time to pick Ruby up and hug Ruby. When Ruby's eating, not the time. Ruby needs to come over and cue her person for attention. If her person's in a steady state, we have worked on the command stay, and we teach her to cue by holding a sit stay. If she's feeling stressed, there are many ways Ruby can interact, but we want to make sure that when she's in a deregulated state, that her person doesn't seek Ruby out, but encourages Ruby to seek her out, and give her cues based on her level of distress. It's a fascinating process. It sounds more difficult than it is. A well-trained service dog is completely intuitive to their person's life experience. And this little pup couldn't be any better if she tried. Right, Ruby? Let's show them how it's done. So thank you so much for watching. We've put some things in the comments below, and of course if you have any questions, add comments as well. Like and share the video if you know anyone interested in service dog training, and if you'd like to get started with me, just send me a line.